In today's world of endless information, we are on a mission to set the data free from all the technological foundations. LangChain, along with Azure OpenAI, has a ability to comprehend and generate the text that closely resembles the human language. This has a potential to transform the way we analyze our data today. By combining these two powerful technologies, organizations can gain the ability to harness the data for making a thoughtful decisions in no time. Have you come across a situation where you are so much tired of poring over endless spreadsheets and databases in search of the information which you are looking for? Imagine being able to give you a Jenny or a chatbot where you can fire your questions and it can give you instantaneously the answers you're looking for. It sounds like a fiction, a science fiction, but you will be amazed that Azure OpenAI, Azure SQL, this is a reality today. In this vlog, we will show you how to unlock the power of conversational AI to make the data more accessible, user friendly to a common human being. So let's get started. Hello friends, welcome to my channel and explore the world of Microsoft Azure. My name is Rajneesh Kaushik and I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, consultant and an enterprise architect. For more latest videos and blogs, you can always log into my website rajneeshkaushik.com and subscribe to my blog. Please do not forget to subscribe my channel and click the bell icon so you don't miss the latest videos. Do like, share and comment. Data liberation, empowering mankind with Azure OpenAI and Azure SQL. Here is the agenda for today. First, we are going to discuss what is LangChain, fundamentals of the LangChain, and what is an agent in the LangChain. Then we will understand how to set up the Chinook DB, what is SQL chain in the LangChain, and then what are the options it supports. And finally, we are going to jump to a SQL chain demo where I'm going to showcase this capability in a demo. So let's get started. Okay, so what is LangChain? LangChain is a very powerful framework for developing applications powered by the different language models. It relies on two key principles, data aware and agentic. Data aware means it can connect to any number of external data sources, which makes it very powerful framework. And agentic means it helps you to provide a active interaction and decision making capabilities on the top of it because it works on the basis of agents which actually interacts with these external data sources. So what are the different benefits of this approach? It provides a comprehensive and contextually rich responses as compared to other frameworks. It is very powerful and provides wonderfully great contextually rich applications. LangChain empowers the developers for creating a data intensive language model applications. LangChain works on fundamentals and let's discuss these fundamentals. So first is chain of thoughts. Chain of thought is a concept that it encourages step-by-step thinking and it generates detailed and logical responses. Like for example, if you want to understand like you are solving a mathematics problem, you will go step 1, 2, 3, 4 and then finally you will solve this issue or a problem in the mathematics. So this is called chain of thoughts, which is step-by-step thinking. Then another fundamental principle is action plan generation. Action plan generation is where it suggests some actions or steps which need to be followed to achieve some goal, like providing a interactive guidance. Like for example, if you are trying to bake a cake and if somebody provides you action plan to bake the cake and provide you step-by-step instructions interactively. So this is called action plan generation. Then another concept is called react. React means it combines the capability of chain of thought and action plan generation which gives you ability to think. That means provide a thinking process of step by step, and then act based on that thinking process and the prompts which you provide to it. So it's something like writing a story. So writing a story includes chain of thoughts, and then once the chain of thought is there, then you are going to implement it by really writing that thought process as a part of the writing. Then another set of concepts are self-ask, prompt chaining, and memetic proxy. What is self-ask? Self-ask is a concept where model asks you follow-up questions on the previous answers. And then what does it do internally? It actually utilizes the external search engines. It could be Google, Bing, or any other search engine. And it based on that, it asks you follow-up questions. Why it is important? Because it gathers the information on, more information, and then based on that information it gives you a benefit. Then another concept is called prompt chaining. Prompt chaining actually combines multiple language models instead of only one language model to achieve the result. And internally what it does is it actually links these questions together and prompt together, so that it makes it more and more powerful. How do you, like, if you want to really delve into the real case example of this, you can think it as if it is a continuous chain of information, and that chain of information is coming from different sources or language models. Another concept is called memetic proxy. Memetic proxy is a concept where model has an influence of a context in which it is the question is being asked. So it actually, how does it work? It works based on a specific type of answers, it provides based on the context. So for example, let's take an example of a student teacher conversation. If I ask a question on the context of student teacher conversation, the answers will be a little bit different than if I give you an answer based on the context of a brainstorming discussion happening in the IT industry. So the memetic proxy is a concept wherein it frames the answers based on the context it is provided to. So based on that, it encourages specific type of answers. If context is teacher-student conversation, then the answers will be different. If it is a employee and boss conversation, the answers will be different. Okay, so what is self-consistency? Self-consistency is a concept where model samples the reasoning path for the consistent answers. So for example, let's take an example. Suppose if you ask a question, what is the importance of exercise? And there might be 5 to 6 reasons, to do the exercise daily. It could be very good for health. It could be very important for, mental health, physical health, or there could be 10 more reasons around it. But which reason is most appropriate? And it actually ranks those reasons based on the reasoning, and then provide you the most accurate response of it. So that is what is called a self-consistency, because it provides a reasoning, and it ranks those reasoning which is the most consistent and most important, and then based on that it provides you the answer. Then what is the concept of inception? Inception is a concept where model provides its own responses before the start of the prompt. Okay, so one example could be like, what is your favorite food? And then model provides you a answer that my favorite food is, and then it automatically fills that answer after that, so that it creates a seed of inception, and based on that, the first step, it starts creating the responses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So why it is important? Because it guides you thinking process towards the desired answer. So you have to start with some prompt, and based on that prompt it provides you the answer, and based on that you start the communication, you go to the next step, it provides you another answer. Like that it starts and completes the conversation. Then what is mem prompt? Mem prompt is a concept where you utilize your memory of errors and user feedback to improve your responses. Like for example, if suppose I have asked a question to the model and then the answer was wrong and I have provided a feedback to the model that this answer was wrong, it's not going to provide the same answer when somebody asks the question, same question again, because it understood that the answer provided by it was wrong, and it knows that this answer was completely wrong and it is not going to provide the same answer. Okay, so now let's understand what is an agent in the LangChain. Agent is a special type of software or a helper software which is acting to, on your behalf to perform some tasks. There are two type of agents. One is action agent and another one is plan and execute agent. Action agent actually makes a decision step by step. And how does it do it? It utilizes some tools. Okay, these tools it utilizes to gather the information and obtain some results out of it, and it understands that what are the information it gathered from this tool and then determine the next step, and it continue to do this process one to end to end. And then once it utilizes all these agents and it understands that now it does not require any extra information, it will provide you the final answer. Let's take an example. Suppose you want to know some detail from a database, so you will use a database agent. So now your model will call that database agent. Database agent will call the database, grab that information and provide you the intermediate information. After that, if your model have more questions, it will ask that database agent, or it may ask some other agent which is non-database agent. It could be document reader agent, and that document reader agent, it will gain the answers and then again ask another question from the database agent or some other agent. And once all the answers are gathered and it understands that now he has got all the answers, it will stop it and provide you the final answer. So this is called action agent. Then there is another agent called plan and execute agent. Plan and execute agent works in a sequential manner. It actually creates a step-by-step comprehensive plan for solving your problem. And when you say problem, it means the question you are asking, and it executes those steps individually one by one. And then in the process of executing these steps, it may call the different tools, which could be, in this example which I have explained you, could be database agent or document reader agent or any REST API call agent, anything, right? And then it tracks the progress based on this whole process, sequential process. And finally, once it understands that it has executed all the steps, it will complete the answer and provide you that answer. Okay, so how do we choose the right agent? How do we know that whether I need to choose the action agent or a plan and execute agent? So action agent is used when you have a very simple set of tasks and you want to make a decision on the spot. So your action agent is suitable for this kind of scenarios. But if you want to accomplish complex tasks and which requires a very careful planning, then the plan and execute agent is very important. And sometimes what happens, you have to use both the agents to enhance the performance of your application. So what are the benefits of these agents? Agents can use or select the tools, and then based on that they can determine their uses based on the user input. So you can create multiple set of agents like database agent, document reader agent, document searcher agent, and then based on the question asked, it can choose which particular agent and then call that agent. Agent can solve problems through direct action or planned execution, right? So you can directly call that agent, or you can call that agent as a part of the overall execution plan. Okay. As a part of the whole demo, we are going to use a Chinook database, which is a SQL-like database. And as a part of that, we are going to set up this database. It's very, very easy. Without any hassle. What you have to do is you have to download this Chinook database from the site, and there is a DB file there. So it comes in a zip format, you can just extract that and save it in a specific folder. And when you write your code in Python, you have to use this specific syntax to access that particular file. If you are using SQL database dot from URI, and this URI is very important. So wherever you have copied this file, that particular folder location, you need to use SQLite // three slashes, and then based on 3 slashes you have to add the particular path, and very carefully you have to look into the /, because if you see in the Windows Word it is a backward slash, but when you write it here, it's going to be the /, what is just explained here. Okay, so let's understand what is SQL Chain, and actually we are going to use SQL Chain in our demo. So SQL Chain is a agent which allows you to ask questions on the SQL database and get answers using the language model. And it could be any question. Like one example could be, we can ask a question, how many employees are there, and then based on that it will go into the find it out. If there is any employee table, in that employee table it will try to find out the count of those employees. Similarly, if there is a table called how many employees are there in imp table, suppose one example. So then in that case it knows that there might be a imp table. It will try to find out that table name, and based on that it will provide you the answer. So you can ask any question, and then it will go back to the database and find your answers, and try to find your answers from the database. So this is the SQL chain. So when you configure the SQL chain, there are multiple options available to it, and let's understand these options. So the first option is written intermediate steps. Okay, and which means that whenever you try to fire a question to the SQL agent, it actually calculates some steps in between. Like one example could be how many employees are there, and in that case first step is that it needs to find out whether is there any employee table. Second step is that it needs to find fire the query called count query, right, for the unique set of employees. So these are the two steps. So if you want to show that how many steps it involved to find your answer, it can give you those intermediate steps in detail, right? So this is called return intermediate steps. Second step is second option is limit the number of rows written, which means that if you want to ask a question and you want to make sure that it should return certain set of rows only, not all the rows. Like one example could be like 1 million rows or 1 billion rows. You don't want that to return. So for that you can limit the number. So that is how you do it, with limiting the number of rows written. And then the third option is verbose output. Verbose output makes sure that all your output has more details, so that it is useful for debugging. How do you set these options? Very easy. You say the toolkit name, the SQL database toolkit, in this case SQL chain option, and then here you see that these are the options, like top K5. Top K5 means the number of rows written. It is how it is set up. In this case it is 5. Return intermediate step equal to true, which means it will enable the intermediate steps is enabled, and it will show you the all the intermediate steps it took. Verbose equal to true, again it is going to give you more detailed output. And then there is another option called use query checker equal to true, which means that it will make sure that whatever SQL query it is generating internally, it will check the syntax of it and making sure that there is no problems in that syntax. So it's going to check that. Then there are other options in this, like adding example rows from each table. So in this step, what it does is, it actually, why it is important to add the example rows from each table, because whenever you want to add the example rows, okay, it actually generates the query very efficiently and effectively, and it comprehends the data, because you are actually training the model when you try the example rows. So internally it actually trains that model. So that is why it is very important if you can add the example rows from each table, and I will show you in the demo that how it automatically adds those example rows. Then another one is customizing the prompt. Customizing the prompt means you can add certain set of prompts to the model so that it you can enforce it to behave in a certain manner. Like one example could be, if suppose you want to treat the EMP as employee table. So when you ask a question that how many EMPs employees are there, or how many EMPs there, so you can interchangeably change EMP or employee. It will understand because you have already trained that model, and you have, so based on that you can customize the questions. So even if you are customizing the question by providing some different question, so in this example it is, instead of asking employee, if you ask imp, then it understands that you are asking employee only. So that is how you are customizing the prompt, right? And then another option is custom table info. So this is very important when you try to supply a customized table information instead of relying on the automatically generated table definition. Again, this is very important because you are training the model and you are customizing the table information, and that way it can generate the response in a different way. Okay, so let's first understand this code. So in this code I have imported a couple of libraries, especially Azure OpenAI and LangChain, and in that LangChain I am using LLM module, and then these are the libraries like SQL Database Toolkit, agents, prompts, and this whole SQL database agent works on the SQL Alchemy engine, so we have to import it and use it. Then first step is that I'm going to set up the environment variables, and here I'm going to use the OpenAPI key, and then I'm going to use the OpenAPI base information, and then these are the API version and API type, which is Azure. So this is pretty straightforward. Then we are going to call the OpenAPI model, and in order to call that you are going to use OpenAPI, and then this is a standard format. Let's see what does it do. It actually finds out which deployment name is here, text devinci. So for the code deployment we are going to use this model, and then every time when you call Azure OpenAPI you need to specify some mandatory fields like temperature, and here we are using verbose equal to true so that we know what is the issue if there is a problem in our code, so it will provide you more detailed information. And this is very important. If you see this, here I am using a database db equal to SQL database.from, and then there is this MSSQL and py MSSQL. So there is a specific format to give this particular connection string. How do you do this? So I have provided three options here, right? And I'll show you these three options. So I have used Chinook database, I have used Microsoft SQL Server, Azure SQL Server, Azure SQL database, and then I have also deployed the SQL Server on a Azure virtual machine, and I am trying to access it. So fundamentally for Azure SQL database and SQL Server deployed on the Azure VM, the format is same. Here we are going to use MSSQL, py MSSQL, and then we are going to use the name of the database, IP address of the machine, and then the port, and then the SQL authentication ID, user ID, and then password. So this is our way. If you are using other databases, like let me show you that there are other databases, one example could be, you might be using so in this case, if you say I'm using Azure SQL database, right, and Azure SQL database, same concept. Okay, the only difference is that when you use Chinook database, the URI will be different, little bit different, and for that I'm going to show you a Chinook database example as well. So let me show you that as well. So for Chinook database, you are going to use SQLite. And as I explained you will copy this Chinook DB in a certain location, and that location path you have to give in a certain format with the /. And obviously you use a SQLite to access the Chinook database. So you are going to use SQLite as a URI parameter. Okay. So these are the three databases. So you can experiment this code with the three different databases, whatever you want. Like if you are good with SQLite, you can use this Chinook database. If you are worked on AdventureWorks database on Azure SQL database, or Microsoft SQL Server deployed on the VM, then you can use these options, right? You can use this one. So any of this, it is your choice, right? So now let's understand what is the code. What does this code do? Okay. So first we will go to the SQL LangChain code. So first and foremost step is to establish the connection to the database. And in this case, we are going to use this database. And then second step is to create a template for the prompt. So if you see this template, it is actually providing you the option to, it is providing you some sentences. Given an input question, first create a syntactically correct dialect query to run, and then look at the result of the query and return the answer. So this is what it shows. And it is also providing you this format, that question should be asked question here, SQL query to run, SQL result will be provided like this, and answer will be provided like this. So which means that it is going to go into this series of steps. And then here it is also providing you the prompt. So in the prompt, it is providing you these three variables, input, table info, and dialect. Okay. And it is using this template which is created here. So which means it is giving you the format of asking the question, and it is going to provide the answers. Then another, here we are actually using the SQLite database, Chinook database with the SQLite driver. And then we are actually calling the SQL database toolkit agent. And in that agent, we have provided the DB where it need to go and find your answers. And then the LLM. And here if you see, the LLM is already created here. And that LLM is Azure OpenAI. That means your LLM model is installed in the Azure LLM, Azure OpenAI, with this model, text dependency model. So that means in the database agent, we are providing these two options. SQL database toolkit, we are providing these two options. The database, it need to go and find your answers, and the LLM model. So after that, we are actually executing, creating an agent, SQL agent, and that agent will execute your questions onto these. So in this case, the toolkit is already created as a database toolkit, and then the database, it need to go and execute that agent. So this is how the code runs. Now based on this, I'm asking a question: how many employees are there? You can ask any question, but in this example, I'm asking this question. So when I ask this question, let me run this and show you how it looks like. So it's saying SQL LangChain. And see how beautifully it's going to go inside. And so first and foremost, what does it do? It actually gone through all the tables one by one, and if you see, it is trying to find out each of these table. And let's go to the first part of it. Okay, so here I have executed it. It called Azure OpenAPI, and then here it's going through all the table definitions, right, one by one. Employee table definition is this, right, and then other table definitions also, genre, all other table definitions. Why it is using it? Because it trains the model, right? Model understands it, how it is going to use this information. Once that happens, then the next step is it is entering the agent executor, and then here it observes that these are the table available in the database. So these are actually all the tables available in the database, right? And then it asks that, it thinks that I should check the schema of the employee table, so and to see what column I can query. So then it raises an action that this is a schema and the schema name is employee schema. Okay, so then it goes to the employee schema, and this is how the employee schema looks like. And it also gets the 3 number of rows from the employee schema. Then it has a thought that okay, I should query the employee table for the number of employees. Then it fires this query, it creates a query, and based on that query it gets the outcome. And then now finally it says that yeah, now I know the outcome, I don't have to call any database agent, and this is the answer, and this is the final answer it provides to you. So this is how the whole agent works, right? Now let's understand another example of it. And in this example we are actually doing all these things the same way. The only difference is that in the SQL database chain, and let me run this SQL database chain agent as well. So SQL database chain agent can work in a sequential manner. As I explained you, there are 2 types of agent, and sequential agents are more like much better because it can call multiple agents internally to give you the answers, right? So in this example it is pretty straightforward because it is only calling one agent, but in a real-time scenario it can call multiple agents. Like one example could be, it is calling SQL database agent, then it is calling Oracle database agent, then it is calling Spark agent, and then finally it is giving you the answer. So this way it can call multiple agents, right? So this is why we say database chain, SQL database chain agent, sequential chain. So sequential chaining is this because it is sequentially calling multiple agents, right? So code is same exactly. Only difference is that I have used the different options I explained you: top, k equal to 5, return intermediate steps, verbose equal to true, use query checker. So let's run this and see what happens. So the question was, how many employees are there who are customers as well? So it gone through those set of questions. It has gone through as a part of sequential agent. It gone through multiple steps, sequential steps, and finally it provided you the answer here. So this is how the whole fundamental of database chain works. Another example here is how do you customize the prompt. So in this example I have provided a template for the prompt, and in that table info I have provided that if someone asks for a table imp, then really means the employee table. So now in this example, if I ask a question, how many employees are there in the imp table, it understands that it is an employee table it is asking. So let's run this code. So here final answer are 8 employees in the imp table because it understands that you need to find the employees. Even though I'm saying it imp, it still understands that it is an employee, right? So so these are the different options available in this, right? Similarly, you have another option where you can add a certain set of examples. Like in this case I am actually providing a custom table information, and this custom table information is a table in, which I am adding here and also adding a sample rows to train the model. And at the same time, I am also providing this sample row in the table info. So I have provided five rows, and then the name of the custom table, so that when the model is processed, right, it actually adds this custom table which is provided here as a here, and it trains that model based on this custom table. And now when you run this, it will give you the answers. So like, let me show you that how it works. So now based on that, I am asking a question about the batch, example tracks in the batch, and I have also provided a information about the track table here, and this is my custom table, and in that custom table I have added that rows, which is a sample rows, and based on that sample row it is going to provide me the answer. So if you see here, the answer it is providing based on the custom row, custom information, custom table information I have added here. So if you see here, observation is track and a playlist, and I should check the schema of the track table to see what column I can query, and it is finding the track which is provided here. And if you see here, I have provided them 3 rows here, right? But if you see it carefully, I have provided here sample rows in the 5. So then in that case it took the 5 rows instead of 3 rows. If I have not mentioned it, sample rows in the table info, it will only take 3 rows, but because since I have mentioned it, it has taken 5 rows. And obviously this table has to exist in the database, otherwise it will not work. So this table already exists, and based on that it provides you the final answer. Okay. Now let's also understand the Chinook DB, which is very, very important. I have a SQLite, and this is a SQLite Studio, and this SQLite Studio can be used to directly connect to the Chinook database. But in this case, this is a UI tool for Chinook database, and these are the tables we are actually using. So you can directly, this is a free utility, this database is free, you don't need any license, you don't even need a Azure, because this is a locally installed, and you see this is deployed in the C colon SQLite /DB /Chinook DB. You can use any option, any path. So with this we have learned how do we use SQL agent, how do we create a Azure OpenAI instance, and then OpenAI instance, I have explained it very clearly in my last blog, right, step by step. Then just deploying this library, and you can use VS Code, or you can directly use Databricks for this to run this code, and all this code is already given in my blog as well, right? So you can go there and copy that code and run it. Thanks for watching, and do not forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you